Now, I was just thinking of other things we could talk about in a genial fashion on a Sunday morning, and I wondered about equality and the thought that we can't have equality because so many of us have IQs of below 80, and that's bad for the species. I just wondered if you would share Boris Johnson's language about this or not.
Well, I wouldn't have put it like that. No,
I think you probably would.
I don't agree with everything he said. Where I think there is actually increasingly common agreement across the political spectrum is you can't achieve equality of outcome, but you should be able to achieve equality of opportunity. You should give everyone, wherever they come from, the best chance, and actually education, I think, is the absolute key to this.
And he was also saying, bring back grammar schools. Actually, whatever their critics, back in the 1950s, through the grammar school system, more kids from poor backgrounds came to the top of different jobs and professions than do now. He had a bit of a point, didn't he, Ed?
I think it was more back to the 80s than back to the 50s. Even Margaret Thatcher didn't bring back the grammar schools. But that idea, greed is good, and the poor are poor because they're stupid, I think that's a pretty outdated set of views. I'm afraid there's rather too much of those attitudes around these days in the... in politics.
OK. And speaking about greed is good, are you disturbed, stroke, outraged, stroke, relaxed about some of the bankers' bonuses we're now seeing again, including at RBS, which is owned by the government?
Well, one of the reasons we actually know about these £1 million bonuses, which have been in the news, is because the government now requires the banks to publish that information. So it's not as if these bonuses weren't being paid before. And in fact, bonuses overall are 80% lower than when Ed was in the Treasury. But I'm clear that the banking system is part of society, needs to take account of the climate and the world we're in. And, you know, that is something...
A bit early for the return of Gordon geckos everywhere, perhaps.
Well, look, of course we want a successful banking system. And by the way, there are many hundreds of thousands of people working in Leeds and Manchester and Bristol and Cardiff. You know, it's a really important industry for the UK. But look, we are making the banking system safer, because ultimately what's absolutely essential is that when the banking system or a bank fails, it's not the British taxpayer who steps in, and actually with the co-op, which is a very sad story, the British taxpayer is not having to step in.
Mr. Balls, yes.
Different banks for the future, tougher regulation, which in the case of the co-op wasn't tough enough in the last couple of years. But also, look, why don't we repeat the bank bonus tax? These bonuses are huge. Use the money to get young people back to work, make our country fairer and stronger for the future. George is against this bank bonus tax. I don't know why.
And no more Crystal Methodists while we're at it.
Well, not something I've ever done.
No, I'm sure that's true. Thank you both very much indeed.